Okay, so today we're going to be talking about burnout in the workplace or at home. Just a little introduction. If you saw my presentations before, my name is Bobby Hanson. I'm the crisis counselor for Project Renew. I shared a picture of my daughter's first birthday and of her when she was 22. That is how long it took me to build up my burnout. There were steps along the way that I was tired, I was stressed, and finally a couple of years ago, I was burnt out from my job, from being a single mom, and that was what brought me from South Dakota to North Dakota. Some of the things that describe me, I'm very independent. I'm determined to prove myself. I love a challenge. I love to fix people and things. And I always seem to have more than one job. So what is burnout? Oh, and before we get really into this, I love memes. I am a memes freak, but I also feel it adds a little bit of visual aids and maybe a little bit of humor for such a topic like this. So burnout is a state of emotional, mental, often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stress. It's more often caused by problems at work, but it can also appear in other areas of life, such as parenting, caretaking, or even your relationships. There are 12 stages of burnout. I won't list them all here as we'll go through each one of them individually. But the first stage of burnout is the compulsion to prove oneself. I love this little girl. I love her expression. And so she just looks so excited, which is probably most of us when we're starting a new job or new career or new goal. We don't see it coming at this point because we're so excited to prove ourselves to either to ourselves or someone else that this is usually how we start out. In the second stage of burnout, it's when we want to work the hardest. We want to establish high expectations because we need to prove ourselves to others and maybe try to fit in to a job that doesn't necessarily suit us. We want to meet these expectations. We tend to focus solely on work, and then we often take on more work than we otherwise would. The third stage of burnout is when we're neglecting our own needs. If we devote everything to work, we're not going to have any time and energy for anything else. Our friends, our family, eating, sleeping, everything starts to be seen as unnecessary or unimportant. I remember the third stage of burnout for myself is when I was a single mom. I was going to school for full-time, had a full-time job and a part-time job. I came home one night, sat on the couch. Someone else had put my daughter to bed. I woke up, I don't know how long later, and I was still sleeping on the couch where I sat down. That's when I started feeling like tired, and that's when my daughter was probably 2. So that's kind of where my journey began. Oops. The fourth stage of burnout, displacements of conflicts. We start to become aware that what we're doing isn't right, but we can't figure out the source of the problem. Because of this, it can lead to a personal crisis and become threatening. Soon after this stage, we're going to start to see the first of the physical symptoms. Fifth stage of burnout, revision of values. While falling into a state of denial of basic physical needs, perceptions and value systems change. Work consumes all of our energy, leaving none for friends and hobbies. And the job is the new value system, and we start to become emotionally blunt. The sixth stage of burnout, denial of emerging problems. We become intolerant and dislike being social. We may be seen as aggressive and sarcastic. Problems may be blamed on time pressure and all the work that we have to do. I know when I start feeling the burnout, I get snappy, or I get really short with people, or I get annoyed with all the questions and everybody else's problems. I can feel it in my body. I start getting tense, and I hear the sarcastic comments coming out. The seventh stage of burnout is withdrawal. Minimum social contact turns into isolations. Alcohol and drugs can be used as a release from obsessive working by the book. We often have feelings of being without hope or direction. Um, I'm not sure if you all fell into this with COVID, but I know I couldn't wait for 5 o'clock to have a beer just to relax. And then it became, excuse me, I was buying beer, taking it home, and just sitting outside and drinking after work all the time. Finally, I realized that it wasn't healthy, and I was able to recognize that and slowed way down. The eighth stage of burnout is obvious behavioral changes. Coworkers, family and friends, and others in our immediate social circles can't overlook the behavioral changes in us. Excuse me. I didn't read the other memes, but I'm going to read this one. When our attitude is changed, our thoughts are changed. When our thoughts are changed, our behavior is changed. When our behavior is changed, our actions are changed. And when our actions are changed, the result is changed. Ninth stage is depersonalization. It's possible that we no longer see ourselves as valuable or any other people. Our view of life narrows to only seeing moment, and life turns into a series of mechanical functions. I also like this one, feeling robotic and emotionless, feel like an observer but not a participant in your own life. There is a way back into your life. Sometimes it feels like we're just going through all the motions. We don't even know what we did day to day. I get to the point that when I'm driving home from work, I end up at home and don't remember the drive home. Or I will totally miss my turn because I'm so tuned out that I'm not paying attention, which is pretty dangerous. The 10th stage of burnout is inner emptiness. We feel empty inside and maybe exaggerate activities such as overeating or sex to overcome these feelings. That's another thing I know. Gaining weight is another complaint of COVID, being at home, being tired, being burnt out, having your kids at home all the time. You eat to feel good. The 11th stage is depression. It can include it may include depression. We feel exhausted, we feel hopeless, indifferent, and believe that life has no meaning. And finally, I'm a huge Grey's Anatomy fan, so I had to use this one. But our burnout syndrome, our final stage, we collapse physically and emotionally and need immediate medical attention. In extreme cases, suicide may occur, with it being viewed as an escape from their situation. This point for me was I had a huge anxiety attack. I was at the time, I was in nursing school. I had relationship issues. I was single mom still. Um, I'm not an emotional person. I don't cry, but I was finding myself crying all the time. I remember sitting on the couch and I looked up into the corner and I literally saw myself sitting on the couch. It was like an out of a body experience and it was crazy and scary. And that's when I realized that I need to go to the doctor and get some help. So what causes burnout? Burnouts mostly occur when we're not in control of how our jobs get done at work or home. We can experience burnout when we lack support in our goals, if our jobs don't reflect our true callings, and if we don't take a break from ourselves. Some physical effects of burnout are being physically and mentally exhausted, dreading going to work. I know on a Sunday, it's like, where did Friday and Saturday go? It's Sunday at 5, the weekend's over. I'm dreading just the whole cycle again. I was at a job where it was just like a routine. Went to work, came home, ate. I went to sleep because I was so overwhelmed. I just wanted to sleep the time away. So it became a huge cycle. And then the weekends weren't really enjoyable because I knew I had to start it all over on Monday. Becoming cynical, angry, and irritable. I did that with one of my jobs, working at a domestic violence shelter for 7 years. Taking care of other people, I was getting burnt out from that. I wasn't in the mood to help people anymore. I didn't want to help my friends and family if they had issues or problems. I didn't want to hear about it anymore. That's when I knew it was time to get out of that field. Losing compassion while working in healthcare or other customer service jobs. That's how I was with the shelter. I was there for 7 years helping people that were victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking. Um, and it just came to the point that I just couldn't, I didn't have it in me to help anymore. I had to leave. Now, there is a difference between burnout and stress. Stress is more, it's short-lived and it's mostly tied to one specific situation. And when that's the case, it's harmless. It can be, just temporarily. However, if that stress becomes long lasting and it gives you the feeling of emptiness and hopelessness, it's more likely going to turn into burnout. So, why does one person experience burnout over another? Um, I kind of wanted to ask myself this question because you see different people handling situations differently. When I was looking up resources, I found emotional intelligence was a really good example. It does include 3 skills: emotional awareness, ability to identify one's emotions, and the ability to embrace those emotions and apply them to problem solving. Because of this, they are able to regulate their emotions and help others do the same. Now, you can learn to have emotional intelligence. You can learn to embrace your emotions and learn how to problem solve. It's it's not something that can't be learned. Um, you just if, you just have to become aware of what's going on and be willing to work on it. So oftentimes we don't get to see a therapist, or we don't have a support system, or like with COVID, therapists are backed up. There's not time to get in. So what I found was the ABCs of self-care. The first one is awareness. We need to be aware of our stress levels. What are we thinking about? How do we physically, how do we feel physically? What do we have going on at home? I don't know about you, but at my job while going through COVID, I was so sick of being on Zoom. One of my supervisors, she had us meeting multiple times a week on Zoom, talking about our feelings, how it's affecting us, the COVID regulations, all of that. I was so burned out from that. So before logging into another Zoom meeting, take a deep breath, make note of any tense areas of your body. Like I can feel it right now in my shoulders. Terry did a self-care presentation not too long ago, and she talked about how you can literally relax each part of your body. You may not be able to lay on the floor and do it, but sitting at the desk, I had to tell my shoulders, okay, relax. And I can just feel all the muscles like pulling when I finally can relax and take a deep breath. And that seems to help a lot. B is for balance. How do we establish a healthy balance between work and our personal life? So before taking a job or starting a project, try to set your own personal boundaries. This is something you would do in relationships as well. If you're getting into a relationship with someone, what are the boundaries that you expect in the relationship? Set them with that other person. You may not be able to set certain boundaries with the boss, but you can set them for yourself. What are you willing to do? How much are you willing to work overtime? How much of your personal time are you willing to give up? This will help prevent being taken advantage of and being overworked and underappreciated. You can also set boundaries with your family. If they are demanding of your time, you just need to relax. Set boundaries. When I come home from work, I need 15 minutes just to sit, relax, and then we'll get to making dinner, homework, playing games, whatever. Just take that time for yourself. Connection. Don't allow yourself to lose personal connections. Before we know it, we start isolating ourselves from family, friends. They might even be our biggest supporters, but we're still pulling away and we may not even know it. Remember what brings you joy. Remember, what do you love to do? What is something that you haven't done a long time because of being overwhelmed? Try to start doing those things in your daily life. Just do 1 or 2 here or there, and you'll see that it might start making a big change in how you feel. Um, how can I help? So if you have a friend, a loved one that you know is starting to pull away, you can see that they're starting to burn out, they're stressed out, just ask them how you can help. Ask them what's going on. What do you have on your plate that I can help you with? Um, I notice you don't come to our gatherings much anymore, or I notice like when I call you don't answer anymore. You know, is something going on? Some people may not even be asked that question, so they might think that others either don't see it or don't care. Just knowing someone cares and is a support system is wonderful. This may not always be possible to encourage them to take time away from themselves or take a day away. It may not always be possible. So maybe offering to do little tasks for them at home. Um, hey, give me your grocery list. I'll go grocery shopping. Or your kid needs to go to a birthday party. Let me take them. You just stay home, take time for yourself. It's just sometimes the little things. Um, I just got to thinking about this today when I was reviewing the PowerPoint. As employers, how can we help our employees with burnout? Um, I think it might be pretty obvious when you seeing like maybe work is declining, or maybe that person isn't the same. They don't have the same personality as when they started. They start to get short. They start um, being resentful of the work you're giving them. If you recognize that, let them have a break. Tell them, ask them how they're feeling. Maybe have like these mental health minutes. These are a great way to let your employees know that you care. That I am a fast talker. I apologize. That was all I had today. This is where I found every time I would Google questions that I have about burnout, it always took me to Psychology Today. Um, these are some of the specific pages that I got information from. So if you wanted to look it up yourself, you could do that. So right now, Terry, if there's nothing else.
Does anyone have any questions?
Or does anybody have any comments of maybe things that they've done to help themselves with burnout? That would be another good too.
I had kind of a technical question. Is it possible to get the slides of your memes with the 12 points of burnout? That was fantastic. And it was helpful.
Okay. That would be a Terry question.
Yeah, absolutely. Jill, I will throw my email in the chat here. If you want to send me an email, I can send you over the PowerPoint.
Super, thank you. And I just want to say, I think I've been so under the burnout cloud. I didn't know this was the topic for today, and it's super perfect. And wow, I could recognize myself in this. And I'm just barely starting to come back from the edge of that burnout phase. And I thought I'd been burned out before we got to COVID. And then I turned this corner. I had survived a whole bunch of things, turned the corner, and wham, right smack into burnout of COVID. And it has been so difficult and so challenging. And at this point, I feel like I'm finally starting a year later to finally have some skills to deal with it. But it has taken this long, even just to have any piece of joy at all in anything. And thank you. I just so recognize myself in these symptoms. So thank you.
You're welcome. Terry. Oh, sorry.
I think we just had some feedback there. Go ahead, Bobby.
Okay. So Terry and I were talking before we got on here, and how sometimes we're in burnout so long that we have no idea we're even in it. Like we are going along just a path of barely holding ourselves together until one day we just fall off the cliff. We're done. We have that breakdown, and then we don't realize how bad it was.
And we just got a resource put in the chat from Amanda. Apparently there's a wonderful book called Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski. So that might be something for many of us to check out because I know burnout is something that I think we're all feeling after the last year. Okay, we've got a few minutes if anyone has any other questions or feedback.
Okay, I thought she had a question, but
I think it was just an unmuting.
okay. Well, we're done a few minutes early. I don't really have anything else. Thank you all for joining today. It's a little nerve-wracking to do these presentations because you do want to help certain people. So even though just helping one person today, Jill, if that's, I'm glad that today could be the day you popped on and it's something you needed. That's what we're doing this for.
And could I ask one other question? Are there more of these? I sort of found this by happenstance on Facebook. It popped up in my Facebook feed. Is there a way to get registered for more of these, or what's the frequency, or how does that all work?
Yes, so we do them weekly on different topics. I think this is our 5th or 6th week now. And we also upload them to the Behavioural Health Division website after they're completed as well. So I can send you the link to the previous ones and I can send you the registration link to future ones as well.
Thank you.
Perfect. And if anyone else wants to email me to get any information, please feel free. My email is in the chat. It's fairly long, so I would just copy and paste it.